Unveiling the aftermath of religious trauma through Preacher's Daughter's album. Uh, this is a article from the National Catholic Reporter by Ryan McQuade. It's talking about Ethel Cain and the haunting of religious trauma. Um, August the 26th, 2023. Unveiling the aftermath of religious trauma. Preacher's Daughter by Ethel Cain is a raw musical exploration into the shadows of faith. Created by artists Hayden and Edonia, the album captures the struggles of a religious upbringing and the internal conflicts it sparks. A Southern Gothic journey, the album tackles themes of abuse, ostracization, and disillusionment with the realm of divine authority. It offers an outlet for those seeking to express their anger and pain stemming from the contradictions of faith. Through haunting lyrics, Preacher's Daughter crafts a visceral experience, channeling trauma into art. The album becomes a sanctuary for those who have been bruised by religion's embrace and betrayal, offering an unconventional avenue for healing and understanding. And Dr. Rich, you can start us off.
Yeah, it's great. I've been listening to it last few days, and it's interesting. It's something that I can come to from a funny angle. I was raised to be a skeptic humanist by my dad mostly, so I've never had religious trauma, but I do know what it is, and it's basically the emotions take a lot longer to get past than ideas. They take a lot longer. They're much more embedded in you. Emotions are basically a prediction, a way that the body predicts to information it's given. Part of it is genetic. It comes from our evolution, and another big part of it is what we're taught. It's what we're given through culture, through society, and through indoctrination. And so it's so built into us, this prediction of this happens, so I must do that. That's faster than you can actually control it. That even when you start to come out of religion, if religion has been, particularly if it's been a bad experience, which often it is, you'll have long got to the point where you'll make the apologetics look silly. You can make all the arguments, you know everything, but you might still have this instant fear of hell at times. You may lay at night thinking, but what if that happens? You may still relive some of the terrifying things you're told that might happen if you leave your religion. You may lose that feeling that you had of community, because belongingness is one of the most powerful affects, emotions there is, and that's been ripped away from you quite often, and you flail around trying to find it. Douglas Adams once said, we are attached to the place we call home by tendrils of guilt, and that's true of our early communities as well. So you've got that to deal with, and it's an interesting record, because I can hear that in that. I can hear this trying to get to grips with and almost let go of what is a habit. It's so deep inside. It's an emotional habit, a coat they're trying to shed, and it's yeah. So for me, I listen to it from an academic, professional standpoint and go, well, that's a very interesting way of expressing that, but I've never felt it, so I'd be interested to hear from those who have. Infidel.
Well, as a pastor's son, I might know a few things about religious trauma and the deconstruction process that comes along with it. Now, I had to promise myself not to recite as many song lyrics as I could before somebody cut me off. But, I think that one thing that religious people often don't understand is that deconstruction out is not like changing denominations. It's not like going from Baptist to non-denominational where you get to sleep another 30 minutes and the music may be a little louder. But when I was listening to this album, and I have to admit that it pretty much became a fixation over the last few days. And when I got to the lyric, God loves you, but not enough to save you. It reminded me that, it's about learning who you are, and that who you are is frankly just not good enough and never going to be good enough. And then, that's one of the lessons that growing up in religion that I accepted, is that we'll never be good enough, or I'll never be good enough, at least. And, when it goes to, all these crosses over my body remind me of who I used to be, literally or figurative, taking up your cross. And that was a refrain we heard many times. And, I didn't realize the crosses are something that remains with you long after you part ways with religion. Those emotions and thoughts and conditions that you experience, and they become part of who you are. And leaving the religion and going, yeah, as you mentioned, I know how to kill I can shut you down with anything logically, but just the awareness of deconstructing of, do I have this feeling because of I have a good reason to, or just because I was taught shitty values in the first place and I'm having to deconstruct those. But I have to say that it's really been a journey listening to this album. There's so many lyrics that are so raw and just honest on so many levels. It was chilling, melancholy. It completely lacked pretentiousness. And I guess that's one thing that I appreciated, is the fact that we could just hear the experiences she's gone through, going from, a child of a deacon to, coming out as trans, and then just the sheer rawness of where she is on her journey now. And I've got to say, it's not something worth the faint of heart, especially at the end of it. It's definitely rough, but I definitely think it's something so worth listening to. And Helen, what were your takes on it?
So I had kind of the same reaction you did, especially that lyric, God loves you, but not enough to save you. So baby girl, good luck taking care of yourself. And when I read that line, I cried some. Then I listened to the album, and then I cried some more. And then I got angry. I had a lot of feelings, and then it kind of moved into feeling resolved, because we here at the ACA, like, we love to have rational debates. We like to talk about skepticism and talk about, how to start thinking for yourself, break down bad ideas. And that is a great tool. But there's a lot of emotions that come along with religion. That's why it's so hard for people to leave, as you were saying, Richard. And not only that, but not only are you letting go of religion, your worldview has completely changed. And it's a breaking down of who you are, because so much of our identity gets wrapped up in religion. So you don't know yourself from the forest, from the trees, and you have to not only deconstruct, but then reconstruct
who am I,
what your life's going to look at, and what type of person you are. Where are your morals coming from? Who are you outside of a faith? And this is one thing that I didn't go through religious trauma as badly as some people have. But this album was so raw that all the feelings, and I completely resonated with it. And that's good, because that's what good art should do. And I ended up sending this to our resource page at Recovering from Religion, because I think this is, we do have, we do use arts as resources for people. And though, this album is rough, people need that cathartic experience and resonate with the art and on a level that other people cannot understand unless they've gone through the process. So it was definitely a very emotional journey. So I'll say a little bit more on it in a bit, but let's throw it back to Phil so he can give his comments. And he's muted again.
And looking at the article, then I realized that for the writer's background, that they were an ex is an ex Southern Baptist who is gay, and later a transgender woman, and who have to deal with this religious trauma. It is not, she's not just, it is like a intersectional gay Southern Baptists, very, they're against LGBTQ plus. And you have here the writer being gay on top of being coming out of that sort of religious tradition as a Christian, and suffering trauma upon trauma, having to deal with that, right? And there are some things in I realized in this song that I can identify with. She In the song, it is talking about the conversion and the construction. The lyrics is the way the album is put together is showing that the conversion, the construction is a journey,
Yeah.
right? Adonia says, I realize that the aftershock, the lingering effects of Christianity, were not going to be easily dealt with and forgotten. So it's a journey. Um, and there also brings up, the angry atheist portion. I ain't got what being told some things that were false and harmful teachings, false teachings that you had to endure. So angry atheist phase is also talks about religious trauma. It's confusing. We see that throughout in the lyrics. You get this idea of confusion coming through. And then, of course, involved in all of this is rejection of the deconverted, especially from the religious family,
Yeah.
right? And that we know is dangerous. Um, there were the article also raised some critical thinking questions to ask regarding religion. Christianity, yes. Well, since this is her experiences with Christianity. Number one, does Christianity heal wounds inflicted by Christians? I think the answer in the song was no. It is actually, I would rather actually say it's the driving force for Christians to inflict those wounds. Guilt tripping, gaslighting. Oh, like God loves you, and lowering people's self-esteem, the sense of making them have this feeling of sense of worthlessness, unless holding on to this imaginary deity outside of you. It cannot save the person. It cannot save a person from itself, basically. Right? And one of the second questions, what scars does Christianity inflict on people in trying to leave the faith? Those who have left, right? They end up with, they have this collision of faith and inner turmoil. Is this a reference to cognitive dissonance? Sounds like this, which, yeah, at the very beginning you experience, right? Before, during the construction, if you have not fully converted yet. And then there was something that had me a bit the writer of the article, he was saying that he was quoting a verse in the psalm where it says Jesus can reject his father, always reject his father, but he cannot escape his mother's blood. He'll scream and try to wash it off his fingers, but he'll never escape what he's made of. And the writer's interpretation is that Cain is saying humanity is cursed, but I am suspecting that interpretation might not necessarily be the case, seeing that she has moved away from Christianity. So I don't know what thoughts Richard, you will have about that?
Quite a few actually. There's a lot in there. There are, whenever I hear about people who have gone through this kind of trauma, have moved away from religion, there are two. There, well, there are certain things that have the greatest amount of emotional impact on people in their lives. Amongst them is moving house, but obviously that's got nothing to do with this. But up there are bereavement and betrayal, and I always feel like I'm hearing a story of both when people talk about leaving a religion, because it's like a bereavement. It's like something that you loved has passed away, has died. Worse, you've killed it. And it's gone. And so that comes with all sorts of guilt. It comes with all sorts of worries. It comes with a feeling of great loss. And then when you combine it with, and I was lied to by this thing I have destroyed, that's where the betrayal kicks in. So something that has two of the out of the top four great things that cause emotional trauma in everyday life, which are bereavement, moving, divorce, and betrayal. You've got two of them there, and also elements of divorce, I suspect, as well, because you've also got this uncoupling and this anger and this suddenly not feeling the way you did about it. And so it's interesting to hear that put into an art form. I think other people have tried. It also makes me wonder that old question I've always had of why is it religious music can be great except for when it's rock and pop and then it's terrible. Atheists seem to be really good at that. But that's a whole question I've always had. But yeah, I would, anybody out there watching this, if you've been through this kind of trauma, I do think it's cathartic. Catharsis is a very good thing to do. And it will, just if nothing else, hearing somebody say the things you feel is always, because there's a new belongingness there. There's a feeling of, I'm not on my own. Obviously, I'm not on my own. There's this person speaking my language, as it were. So go and listen to it. Enjoy it, if that's the right word. You will. A few plays in, you'll start to really properly enjoy it. So yeah, it's great.
Well, I've got to say that I think you're completely right with the fact that it is a matter of bereavement and betrayal, because I know that for me, my trek from being a white Christian nationalist to where I'm at today started out with the awareness that first it was a sense of loss. I definitely clung to the fact that I would see my dad one day, and then I realized that no, I wasn't. And frankly, it pissed me off that I've been lied to for so many years about so many things. And so I think I went straight to the anger phase, and I think that's where I lasted for quite a while. And I think this album though is a real good example of walking through some of that, unpacking some of those things. While it's one thing to unpack the ideas and say, you know what, I had this idea for a really good, really bad reason, so let's change it. It's a lot harder sometimes to reach down there and dig out that emotional baggage, those things that you're not even sure, you don't even necessarily understand that are problems, that you don't even realize you're carrying around until you're confronted with something like this song. You talk about this song, Helen, and this album, I should say, and different tracks and different parts of it just reaching out and grabbing you and just bringing you to that emotional point. I know it did for me. And, I went into it thinking, I'm way past that. I'm 20 years out. I'm good.
No.
I don't have anything to unpack.
Nope.
Oh, well, no, sorry, wrong again. There's always plenty to unpack. And yeah, I agree. This is definitely an album that not only would I think disbelievers will benefit from, I think it raises some questions that is definitely worth a listen to for believers as well. This is a really good album. And the truth is that I have a tendency to refer to song lyrics as the artist known as, because really it is art. It's the poet known as the art, because that's what we're talking about. And when it comes down to it, it's just raw, pure talent, just waiting for someone to appreciate it. And Helen, you want to take us out?
Yeah. So to wrap us up, I do want to give a shout out to Ryan McQuade, the author of this article, because he did no apologetics. He didn't try to explain away her feelings or religious trauma. He listened to the album. He talked to her and wrote a sincere article about the art, and so I give him kudos on that. And if you are struggling with religious trauma, please consider contacting the Secular Therapy Project at seculartherapy.org for support. And in the meantime, if you do need support and want to find community, please consider contacting us at Recovering from Religion. Please go to recoveringfromreligion.org. And on that note, I hope everybody has a great rest of your day. So if you want to get more from the nonprofits, do the clicking here and here and here. Do all the clicking.
All the click.